I love looking at political news, something I'm sure you guys probably are aware of. But in September of this past fall, 2023, there was an interesting story that came out of the US Senate. It was about the dress code and the relaxing of the dress code. And then there was controversy where some politicians said that they had supreme disappointment and resolute disapproval in a letter that went public, of course. And yet Senator Fetterman of Pennsylvania, famous for his hoodies and shorts and his individualized attitude, was really happy for the relaxed dress code. There's a historical letter, though, that points out that the Senate attire has actually, in fact, never been officially determined. It was always done by tradition and custom rather than a formalized dress code. Dress requirements, in fact, never appeared in Senate rules. And yet, there were, of course, senators who dressed a specific way, usually, as we can imagine, in suits, formalized suits. And yet, of course, there was even controversy about that. Some senators would get off the plane wearing khakis and whatnot, show up on Mondays, ready for a quick vote. Kristen Sinema of Arizona was criticized for wearing a short dress and high boots at one point. And I know this may be even hard to imagine today, but in 1993, Senators Barbara Mikulski and Carol Moseley Braun had to fight for the right to have bare arms on the Senate floor. And it was in 1996 when the seersucker suit made its first appearance in the sacred chamber that is the Senate, brought by none other than Senator Trent Lott of Mississippi. Of course, he knew how hot the summer could be and what fashion was necessary to make it happen. All of this to say, a lot of talk over what people should be wearing. When we think about what should be happening in the Senate, I think we should think about, or perhaps many of you do, an erudite and intellectual, impeccably dressed, well-spoken and elegant in manner. That was, in fact, how Orrin Hatch was described. I will say this, as a female rabbi, my garments have had at times been the center of controversy. I will not ever forget when then Senator Hillary Clinton was running for president. There had been just an issue in Vogue where you could see all of her rainbow array of pantsuits. I showed up at synagogue wearing a pantsuit, I think for the first time, and one of my members looked at me and goes, well, I guess if Hillary can wear pantsuits, the rabbi can wear a pantsuit, and of course saying it rather loudly, I think by accident. The robes of office mentioned in this week's Torah portion are items that the high priest wore and other priests while taking care of sacred spaces. And it got me, of course, thinking, what does it mean to wear specific garments? And what do garments actually say? The robes that were described in the Torah portion are described as having kavod and tiferet, meaning glory and beauty. And it's the first time that these words of glory and beauty are associated with something other than God. Specifically, we find kavod is as a reflection of the divine physical presence, while tiferet is usually associated with the aesthetic. But when we think about Judaism and we think about all of the 613 mitzvot, usually done to better humanity, it's kind of hard to make us think about why does a specific garment necessarily matter, and why would the Torah take the time to describe and define the priestly garments in that specific way? Well, when we think about do clothes matter, dress scholars such as Mary Ellen Roach and Joanne Eicher defined and described in an article of what to wear by saying that clothes represent how much power a person wields, how much influence they have, how smart you are, and how much you earn. And when you think about it, you can kind of figure out in that wonderful scene, The Devil Wears Prada, where Meryl Streep is talking to Anne Hathaway about what each is wearing and why. Clothes can enhance our desire to feel confident and powerful, or even silly. Dress is a systematic means of transmission of information of who the wearer is and what perhaps message they may send. And in case you're curious, hemlines matter. There's a hemline index. When a country enters a recession, hemlines go longer. When a country's more happy and the money's free-flowing, just think of the Roaring '20s, they get shorter. In terms of evolutionary biology, I want us to think about the value of clothes. They distinguish us from a crowd, perhaps for the important task of finding a partner, or sometimes they help us blend in when individuality may not be what we need at that moment. In the Bible, we're told that the clothes needed to be specific. They had to have kavod and they had to have tiferet. They had to have splendor and they had to have beauty. And so the priests we're taught by Sforno, an Italian commentator, were there to inspire awe among the Israelites, among all who were seeing them. And we can even think about this in medieval Europe, where the color purple was associated exclusively with royalty. We knew that the priestly garments not only inspired awe, but had meaning behind it. According to Rabbi Mordechai Katz, the garments worn by the Kohen Gadol symbolized atonement for sin involving derogatory speech. Sky blue was a reminder of the words which rise up to heaven. The neckline of the coat is tight and never ripped, reminding us to tighten our mouths. And when we are inclined to speak of derogatory words, in fact, he kind of went on through all of the pieces of the garment, associating different meaning with it. Clothes, of course, do have meaning. They remind us of maybe even how to behave. They remind us of who we are. In today's society where selfies are a big thing, we can kind of get an idea of how important clothes are. That's why there's organizations called Rent the Runway, where you too can look like a supermodel influencer in your selfie. Clothes remained an important part of who we are. They teach us and they remind us. And in fact, there was a study done in the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University where students put on a lab coat and did better in exams than those students who did not have a lab coat. And the researchers hypothesized that that's because it elevated students' efforts to live up to what they thought they should while wearing a lab coat on a subconscious level. Clothing matters. How we dress matters. It says a lot about who we are. It shares a message out to other people. It also helps us to, unfortunately or fortunately, think of who the person that we're looking at might be. May all that we do with care and forethought. After all, we are priestly people. So may we treat ourselves with respect, our garments with love, and those around us with gentleness, as we give off lovely messages of kindness and caring through everything that we do and wear. Shabbat Shalom.